I can't see you. Really want to see you. Really want to see you, Lord. Oh my God. And we have Joseph. Joseph from the Bhakti Center in New York. How are you doing? So good to see you. Oh, you'll have to unmute yourself, okay?
Doing very well, Maharaj. Sorry I haven't been attending your classes.
That's okay. That's okay. They're Krishna's classes, by the way. It's his philosophy, right? Just to be more accurate. We'll have to
Oh,
pick a time when we can talk together, okay? Maybe this weekend sometime. I'm
please,
in
I've sent you a few emails, but I just assume that you're busy.
they're keeping me very busy. I feel like I'm a slave sometimes. I'm just joking. I'm just here in Florida and I'm here till Monday. Then Jai. All right. So people are popping up and we're happy about that. And we've got Anutama Jr. who's joined us. Yes. And Alana, she's also from Hawaii. Good. I think we're doing good. We should start. Okay. Let's do our pranam mantras to Prabhupada, two of them, then the Panchatattva Mantra, and then the mantra to honor Radha and Krishna. And then we'll go to page 1 of the intro of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Jai. Let's try to do this one together. Nama Om Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutare Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Taramane Namaste Saraswati Devi Purnamani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachadesha Tarini Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radhar Shiva Shri Gaura Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Thank you again. And we want to thank our divine couple here, namely Vaishnavi and Ananta Shesha, for holding these sessions we're on our 4th year. That's amazing. It's just amazing. Good. And if you don't know what they look like, well, he's on a rocking chair. He's sitting there on a stump, like a wise old owl. And Vaishnavi is taking a humble position, working all the mechanics to make this happen. Hare Krishna. All right, so let's go to page 1, our invocational mantra. Okay. So it goes like this: Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya
ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया
Chakshurun Militam Yena
चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः.
I was born in the darkest ignorance,
I was born in the darkest ignorance,
and my spiritual master opened my eyes,
and my spiritual master opened my eyes,
the torch of knowledge.
the torch of
I
knowledge.
offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Respectful obeisances unto him.
Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Sure.
I'm going to request our host to put a strong image of Prabhupada on here, just as we finish that in the future, maybe next week. Okay, just flash it on. Just when we say Srila Prabhupada.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, behind me. Oh, there's too much glare of light. You can't see it at all. All right. Okay, so we're going to go to chapter 17 from Bhagavad Gita as it is. And would you kindly tell us what shloka we are on? Point 3, 17.3. The chapter is entitled The Divisions of Faith. Shrutvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata Shraddha mayo yang purusho yo yach shraddha sa evasaha. O son of Bharat, according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. Hare Krishna. Now we have a healthy purport, and it's going to, I think we have enough material so 5 people can read it. Let's get them in queue, Vaishnavi, please, and we'll take it from there. Okay, we'll start with Chaitanya Charan, and he's going to wait until we've got the whole lineup together. Who else is on there? Should have Anutama, Naman, Uday, Arjuna. Okay. Okay, Arjuna, we're coming to see you tomorrow, I think, right? Okay, well, he went silent. Okay, never mind. That's the nature of these things. All right, on your mark, get set, go.
Report. Everyone has a particular type of faith, regardless of what he is, but his faith is considered good, passionate, or ignorant according to the nature he has acquired. Thus, according to his particular type of faith, one associates with the certain persons. Now, the real fact is that every living being, as is stated in the 15th chapter, is originally a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, one originally transcendental to all the modes of material nature.
Thank you. Next.
But when one forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and comes into contact with the material nature and conditioned life, he generates his own position by association with the different varieties of material nature. The resultant artificial faith and existence are only material. Although one may be conducted by some impression or some conception of life, originally he is nirguna or transcendental.
Thank you very much. Next.
Therefore, one has to become cleansed of the material contamination that he has acquired in order to regain his relationship with the Supreme Lord. That is the only path back without fear, Krishna consciousness. If one is situated in Krishna consciousness, then that path is guaranteed for his elevation to the perfectional stage. If one does not take to this path of self-realization, then he is surely to be conducted by the influence of the modes of nature.
Thank you so much. Next.
Hare Krishna. The word Shraddha or faith is very significant in this verse. Shraddha or faith originally comes out of the mode of goodness. One's faith may be in a demigod or some created god or some mental concoction. One strong faith is supposed to be productive of works of material goodness. But in material conditional life, no works are completely purified. They are mixed. They are not in pure goodness. Pure goodness is transcendental. In purified goodness, one can understand the real nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay, that's good enough. Let's get 2 more people to read, and the last person, and then we'll tag on somebody who's from Hawaii.
Gurudas, and I don't know, somebody by name.
Oh,
Joseph.
Gurudas. Oh, Gurudas, and then Joseph. Okay, fantastic.
Oh, okay. So as long as one's faith is not completely in purified goodness, the faith is subject to contamination by any of the modes of material nature. The contaminated modes of material nature expand to the heart. Therefore, according to the position of the heart in contact with a particular mode of material nature, one's faith is established. It should be understood that if one's heart is in the mode of goodness, his faith is also in the mode of goodness.
Very good, thank you. And then the last person is Joseph, right? Oh, Joseph is there. He just maybe has to unmute himself. Are you ready, Joseph?
Yeah. If his heart is in the mode of passion, his faith is also in the mode of passion. And if his heart is in the mode of darkness, illusion, his faith is also thus contaminated. Thus we find different types of faith in this world, and there are different types of religions due to different types of faith. The real principle of religious faith is situated in the mode of pure goodness. But because the heart is tainted, we find different types of religious principles. Thus, according to different types of faith, there are different kinds of worship.
Oh, nice. Thank you, everyone. You all did super well. Beautiful. Okay, so it's an interesting chapter. And what is there any way you can say air in here? It's like really stuffy. You know, is there any way you could open up the well, he can do it, you know. The front door.
In the hallway.
Okay, we're in a stuffy place right now. Soon it will be unstuffed. Okay, so now it's an interesting chapter because we are actually looking at the usage of language here that makes it interesting. Prabhupada talks about faith. This is called divisions of faith. He also talks about religion. Some people will interchange these words. But now faith may have a different, or we may have a different understanding after we finish this particular chapter. Faith, let's go for a definition that Prabhupada so eloquently used. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. Wow, that's pretty. Unflinching trust in something sublime. That sublime thing, of course, is God, Krishna, the universe, whatever you want to call it, him, her, them, what pronoun, Hare Krishna. Yeah. And when it comes to religion, that is more in reference to denomination. Are you Christian? Are you Buddhist? Are you Hindu? Are you Islamic? Are you whatever, Wiccan, you know, any of these affiliations that people have. Now, we might put aside our old definition, our old ideas about what is a religion and make more of a reference to the Bhagavad Gita itself. And maybe we can split religion instead of taking a big brush, you know, or a big roller in a paint pan, and then just religion, it's all one. They're all the same. No, they're not, according to the Bhagavad Gita. They have different tendencies, different intents. And that's what we're looking at. That's what we have to see quite and go in depth at. So faiths, or let's say religions, let's put it this way, let's stick to religions now. They can be determined by their nature, which is one of three. Now, somebody might be judgmental and appear to come across as judgmental and say, your faith is less than my faith. We have to be careful not to go there, but we can align ourselves with what scripture here has to say and say, well, your faith seems to have the qualities of blah, 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 you know, mode of goodness or whatever. And based on what the Supreme Lord here says, you know, like we know very for certain that there are some religions that are very kind of like molded very much out of fear, right? And some also come out in a very different way, maybe a little more love and kindness, you know. And again, we're not being judgmental necessarily. We're just going by what we see with our eyes based on the Shastric values, how these particular religions are, how they operate, you know. And so it's, you know, I don't think Krishna devotees want to go around and just start labeling everybody. That's not our intent. You'll find really fine quality people in all religions. There's no doubt. You'll like the Sunday program we had here in Alachua, we were talking about meeting fanatical, like not very developed or evolved Hare Krishnas. You get that in every group. You'll get little, like, say, arms of, let's say, the Sikh movement. We have a lot of problems with a particular branch of Sikhism, where they're kind of very aggressive, and it's not nice. But it goes on, and they just represent a small sliver of the whole culture, and they kind of give a bad name to everyone else. And of course, that holds true for Christianity. They've had their problems, and the Buddhists as well in some countries, and nobody's really spared. But you really have to, it's kind of a personal, very private thing, your relationship with Krishna or God. And your actions should be motivated more out of goodness. That's the most important thing, not out of ignorance. Or, like, say, sometimes when you're maybe a little exhausted or you're not very enthusiastic, your mind says, do I really have to get up and do the arti, and that is like approaching your service in not a very happy mood. And when Devahuti, the mother of Kapila Dev, had a discussion together, Kapila Dev was describing the different religions or approaches to the absolute by way of your approach, your mode. What's your attitude, really? Cultures express an attitude. There are some cultures, like in Toronto, we have this, 1 million people come for a particular parade. Well, there's 2 parades where people are scantily dressed, okay? You can say, based on this parade is in the mode of blah, 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 I don't have to tell you which one it is. I think you can figure it out. And they do draw a lot of people. And so I think this can be an eye-opener, this particular chapter. We are encouraged to, as this purport delineates, to approach the Lord in the mode of wanting to please. Sang Siddhir Hari Toshanam. Hari means God. Toshanam, I'm here to please God. That's my purpose. I'm not here just out of the routine of it. I'm not here just because my parents forced me to go, like when you're young. So I'm doing this because I really want to please. So that is the sort of guiding light for those who are approaching their faith in that way. So I think that a couple of things to look at is that, what do we mean by faith and what do we mean by religion? And I had a nice discussion with Radhe Shyam. Some of you might know him. He's kind of a scholar. He's written many books. He's settled in Pune. And, a lot of people will affiliate themselves with spirituality, but not with religion, because religion oftentimes has a bad name associated with being organized, but with some evil or corruption behind it. Well, I don't know what to say. If your religion is not very organized, then I can just say it's pretty in the mode of ignorance. That's all. You have to be a little bit orderly about what you do. Even if you're a warmonger and you're strategizing, there's some kind of intelligence behind it all. The driving force may not be good, but when you plan a little bit, that means you're using your brain a little bit, puts you a little bit out of the bracket of total just self-destruction and ignorance. Okay, so we are in some way encouraged to classify, not so much based on the institutional's name, how it's been certified or recognized traditionally, but how it fits in to the particular characteristics that we are going to be reading about. Well, it'll come more clear as we go through this chapter. So judge not by the institution's name, but you may be able to judge by the particular traits that are identified or affiliated with that particular group, you know. And it might be not a bad idea. It's just like when you go grocery shopping, you're going to go for avocados, right? So which avocados are you going to, you want to serve some avocados at the meal tonight. So which avocados are you going to go for? The hard ones that are sort of, you know, still not mature. You're going to go for the ones that are like maybe mushy, very dark and mushy. Probably not. That's in the mode of ignorance. But you're probably going to go for the one in the mode of goodness. Slightly soft, slightly tender. You put a little slight squeeze on it with your fingers. This is what Krishna would like. So just like you, on different levels of maturity, this is the way to look at it. Some faith groups are not so mature. Some devotees are not mature. The ultimate mature devotees are those in the category of Uttamadikari. You know, and that means they see Krishna in all things. Madhyamadikari makes some distinctions. This person is favorable, that person is not favorable. This person is evil, that one is not. That person gossips too much. No. Or just to, you know, not to be judgmental, but to be say, just to not participate whatsoever. Like we gave a class to the students yesterday, right? And we helped them to understand. These are students from anywhere 6 to 15, something like that. And we asked them, I said to you, there's homework that you can approach in the mode of goodness or in passion or in ignorance. So the person answered to doing homework in the mode of goodness means get it done, do it attentively, don't let it drag on, you know, get it done and have it ready, and be extremely attentive to all details when looking at the questions that are to be answered. Then we ask, what's homework in the mode of passion? Okay, that means, okay, procrastinate. And then at the final hour, gotta get it done. You know, like you panic, you know, and then you get it done, but you got it done. And homework in the mode of goodness was told by one of the boys. Homework in the mode, he put up his hand. Homework in the mode of ignorance means you don't do your homework at all. Maybe you looked at it, but then you closed the book on it. So I think that these modes must be constantly looked at, observed, analyzed, and they are slapped onto every phase of life. And now we're looking at your approach to God, your religion, or let's call it your faith if you want. And what features does it carry? And, you know, just look at the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, and it'll come very plain and clear. What mode is your faith? Okay. So can we'd like to open up now, and we've got a hand up here, a golden hand that's coming from Chaitanya Charan.
Should we not think of ourselves as we're not denomination, we're pure soul?
Yes, the question is, should we think of ourselves as not even a religion, perhaps, like it's a culture? We're non-denominational. Yeah, that'd be the best way to go about it. Yeah. But then for practical purposes, you know, we are put in a box. We are, you know, which group do you belong to? Somebody comes official, you know, and we'll have to say, well, in the broad sense, they'll put us in the Hindu category. But one of these days, we're going to tell them what we are. I'm a Vaishnav, you know, and it's not there in the books right now, but it's going to be in the future. And it's people like Naman and everybody else, and Pavitra, people of your generation, and lawyers like Gurudas who are going to change it, make a difference. And let people let's tell the world what we really identify with. Like in Canada, they used to call the people of the north, the far north, Eskimos, and they considered that derogatory. So they decided we will call ourselves what we call ourselves, how we know us, a more honorable name, Inuits. That's what they call them, Inuits.
What is it?
Inuits.
How do you spell that?
Inuits. Inuits, yeah. So that's
Maharaj.
yes. Si, senor.
I identify as spiritual. If somebody goes, "Well, what are you?" I'm like, I'm spiritual, in a general term. And if they ask me, I tell them I practice bhakti yoga. Like, like I just tell them the truth. Like, if they want to go more deeper than just spiritual,
Uh-huh.
straight on.
I'm sure. I think that's a very nice and it's a very fair answer. And like I was with a bunch of young people yesterday, one real nice young fellow is part of our community here says, I go to the school and they say, "Are you a Hindu? What's that all about?" And I said, "Well, I'm not actually Hindu. I'm actually I'm coming from an ancient tradition that goes back thousands of years, has roots from India, and they call us Vaishnavas. So I think your answer is good. I think also what we just expressed works. Okay, great. So Uday, you got your hand up, and then we'll go for Joseph, and then we'll go for Anantashesh. Go ahead.
Yes, so like you were mentioning about like how we are not a religion and it's mostly about culture and spirituality. So what I've seen like in ISKCON, the sannyasis, like they don't change their name to something which is Indian. They keep their like Western name. And that actually shows that we are not like converting, actually we are changing. So that
Are you
shows,
saying sannyasis don't change their names?
yeah, like even if they get like a very Vaishnav name, they keep their Western name. But generally
Well,
when you see
sorry.
in religion conversions, they change their name too.
Totally,
So,
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
that might be true. Like
yeah,
I keep my family name. It's a
yes.
Dutch name. It's Vis. It translates as fish. I went to Suriname, and the guy at the customs says, he looks at me and he looks at my passport, looks at me, looks at my passport. "So you're a fish." And he laughs. And I said, "Well, I'm sure I was in a past life." And then we laughed even louder. Okay, so I think it's nice to have two names,
Based on circumstance, no?
Yeah, it really depends. I think the name change isn't so important. It's really the condition of the heart that's the most important thing. Joseph, go ahead.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for this wonderful class. Very poignant topic at the moment. These sorts of questions and points of thought seem to be quite hot topic within the movement at the moment. I've been watching a lot of Bhakti Vikash Swami's classes. He's done a 3-part series on something called Neo Krishna consciousness, which is maybe a new term. And he was amongst many other things talking about are we as an international society, an international community, are we running the risk of maybe watering down our philosophy to the point of where actually the real fruit of our labors and the fruit of our philosophy isn't being effectively communicated to newer members or even sort of neophyte devotees who are still practicing, and this sort of like idea of Gaudiya Vaishnavism within this line that we're practicing often doesn't really get spoken about and is almost pushed to the side, and then we maybe running the risk of falling in amongst these sort of just like new age spiritual movements where Krishna himself doesn't really take much of a leading role. And I'm just wondering like what your thoughts are on this, where we should go as devotees, how we should sort of like approach these sorts of lines of thoughts, especially when we're preaching and especially and practicing really.
Mhm. Well, trying to water down, I think we should give the straight sauce. Why not? But if somebody's not ready for the straight sauce, why should we scare people away? Why can't we gently administer? I mean, if I'm going to eat at somebody's house, I can They can shovel it down my throat if they want something I don't want. I'm not ready for it. No, I don't want Corella. I don't like Corella. I'll take one or two, little circles of it, but I don't want any more. So why should we come on as a fundamentalist and scare people away? In North American culture, Western countries in general, it's very hard to win people over with you taking a shovel and banging them over the head, So I don't agree with that approach, nor do I prescribe to some of the particular parameters that are laid down by the Maharaj, which is kind of, not looking at things so well in terms of perception on women and so on like that. And I don't agree. And I think the fundamentalist role is we are not these bodies. I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm not man, woman. I'm a servant of the Lord. I think that's where that's the straight philosophy, And watering down, again, let me reiterate, I would just like to say that you have to look at your audience and you have to see what they're able to take. Let's say you're in a room full of feminists and you speak his philosophy. Well, they're going to throw rotten tomatoes at him. Is that wise? Or maybe you can gently present the case. So anyways, I have all respect since you got a little specific there about naming somebody. And but I think everything hinges on time, place, and circumstance. I'm going to talk to children about Krishna and share the stories of Krishna. I'm not going to be able to have them sit down and now what's good for you kids here, is you've got to read the entire Bhagavad Gita. You got 2 hours to do it, and this philosophy is good for you. So take it. You really have to learn the art of gentle persuasion. And I think that's a mark of being advanced in Krishna consciousness. Don't scare people away. It's not a question.
For sure.
You can't.
Maybe also, yeah. I was going to say maybe also Maharaj's approach is slightly warped for him because he's based so often in South India. He's in India and does a lot of preaching from there. So maybe his perception or understanding of the Western preaching model isn't so well-rounded.
Yes. Well, I'm not going to judge like that. I'm just going to say you have to know your audience. You have to know who you're talking to. And, you're not going to teach algebra and calculus to people of grade 5 or 5 years old. So learn the art, do what works by hook or by crook. That means where that term comes from. Are you familiar with it?
It's a fisherman's term?
It might be. I think it's more to do with the pirate days. By hook or by crook, get that bottle open, get the cork up by a hook or by a crook, and we think a crook, like in sort of layman's terms mean you be a criminal, whatever, be sly, be cunning. No, it doesn't mean that. But whatever it takes, get people to love Krishna. Like I was telling the devotees, one of the nicest people I ever met on one of my walks was a guy who hunts moose and eats them. And he was one of the nicest people I ever met on these walks. And I could say, hey, Joe, well, not you, eat your moose, no problem. But, there's this cool dude, his name's Krishna, and you should really read about him. His philosophy is fantastic, and eventually they'll come around. So that's where I'm coming from. How are you, let's say, delivering the message, Are you doing it to scare? Or are you doing it with care?
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay, we got another golden hand up, and as far as far as I can see, it's Gaur and Nitai that are holding up their hands.
Thakur Murari.
Thakur Murari Das. Okay. Do you have a message you want to give us?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Guru Krishna Prabhupada, that accept my humble obeisances and to the assembled devotees. So quickly, on the subject of who we are, I was saying that we, in the classification, we would say is a religion, but we know it's what religion means now in terms of English is not what we are. That's number one. Number two, the aspect of how do you put forth the message. For example, I'm in a predominantly Christian country, and I've been trying for the last 30 years to sort of introduce Krishna consciousness. Can you hear me?
I'm having a little hard time understanding. Your voice is a little muddled, so maybe you want to type it out.
Am I better now?
Well, just try. Keep your comment like a little simple and clear, slow, and maybe then it'll come through.
Okay, so is it better now?
Yeah, keep going. You're doing good.
Maybe try speaking directly into the mic, so it comes through clearer, because you're getting a lot of background noise.
Yeah, maybe into the mic. Try that slow and clear. Try it out.
How is it now? Is it any different?
Yeah, just go ahead.
Okay, so I'm saying that I was thinking that in terms of what the definition for a religion is. So if someone asks you, you ask, what's your religion?
Oh.
Yes. So I was saying that we, in terms of definition, we regard as a cult. I think that is that correct? Because we will not be classified.
Somebody asks you, what is your religion? And then they conclude, the person who is asking the question, they're saying, are you a cult? Or they conclude, that you're a cult?
I'm saying that in terms of a definition for what we do, the Krishna consciousness movement, we would be in the list of religions. So we would be regarded as a cult.
Okay. Let me try here, okay? So first of all, a cult could be a short form for culture. But when you cut it in half, it's had bad connotations. Like I remember they used the word for Tony Bennett. He was one of those crooners. Do you know what I'm talking about? Tony Bennett. He was like a smooth singer, Italian American guy, and he did a good job. What is like say, I left my heart in San Francisco. Da, 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 da. Okay, so my mother liked that kind of music. And so what can we say? They call it the Tony Bennett cult. That means he has a following. It's not necessarily a negative thing, Cult usually, oftentimes, it's a word applied by people who come from a major community, like mainstream religion, and they're pointing fingers at a smaller group that eventually will become a religion, So it's a derogatory term. We had to deal with all of that in North America back in the mid-70s up to the early 80s. And it's not used so much. Listen, when the Romans were in charge and Christianity started to get popular, they considered this as a cult. We got to get rid of, throw them to the lions. Let the gladiators deal with them and the Colosseum. That was the kind of attitude they had. They were just a small group and they were a threat to the status quo. So that's how you label people, or those, a bunch of pagans, But pagans were just people who lived in the countryside. They were simple and, So that word we sort of haggled with, some decades ago, and I think it's behind us now because we have so many of our people from India that back us up. I am Krishna. They say I'm Krishna too. Well, some people say my parents are followers of Krishna for many, many moons, whatever, And so so we've got all that support, that maybe we didn't have before. And then people got to know us. And then even the police, the Hare Krishnas, they're low maintenance people. They hardly ever give us any trouble. They're into goodness. They're vegetarian and they're kind of quiet. They only make some noise on Sunday afternoon, whatever, And many people have concluded we're not a threat, that we're an asset and not a liability. So I think give it a little time, a little space. And, some of the born again Christians are going to say we're a cult, but we're in greater number. When Christianity started in the year about 2,000 years ago, there were so many more followers of Krishna than there were followers of Jesus. But I don't think that people who are Krishnaites or Vaishnavas labeled these people and say you were something less. It's not part of our culture to denigrate others. You understand what I'm saying? So I think live by the truths of the Bhagavad Gita, demonstrate by your actions, not just by your words, that you are a person you represent a culture that's outstanding. And you can prove that by going out there, distributing prasadam for free, whatever, making everybody happy and all that kind of stuff. And singing, making nice orchestrated kirtans that look really attractive to the people. And how can they fault us? How can they say we're bad people, we're evil or something like that? You can just say, listen, the real cult is television. The real cult is TikTok. The real cult is the newspapers. The real cult is the pop culture. The Grammy Awards. Am I right or not? All right,
Maharaj. Thank you.
Uday, let's go to you.
Maharaj, I wanted to know about the role of heart, because like in this statement, the contaminated modes of material nature expand to the heart. So like what heart is this? Is it like a spiritual thing like mind or
We're talking about the core of your being, Let's say if you associate a lot with people who are in the mode of ignorance, your heart will get affected. You'll start to think like them, act like them. So it affects your very being, your very inside. So you want to make sure that your heart, you're in the heart. We want to make sure that you associate yourself with the mode of goodness and people of that particular quality so that you will be impacted positively.
I see.
So that's what we mean by the heart.
Okay.
Good. Does anybody else have any? We're doing good. Do we have any other people that have got their hands up?
No.
Okay, Ananta Shesha, go ahead.
Maharaj, is it accurate to say that any religion that does not bring you closer to God or Krishna is an illegitimate religion?
Legitimate. Yes, Prabhupada used almost those very words. He said any religion, or let's say any community, any faith, that actually enhances or encourages love of God is valid. Yes, that's right. And while if you really, really love God, then you must also love people of other faiths. You must be kind to them. You don't go around killing them because they believe in something different. Yes. So Prabhupada used those terms and they are good. And that way, Prabhupada helps us to understand, don't be condescending. Don't be so judgmental. Don't think that you're better than everyone else.
So that would be an Uttamadhikari perspective, right?
Yes, an Uttamadhikari for sure. Yeah, non-judgmental. But let's not be naive at the same time. Look at this. We're going to go through this chapter. We're going to go through it with depth, and we're going to understand how different religions measure according to what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. And even though some might not be as evolved as pertaining to our vision, from our perspective, we're still not going to look down on them. But we will kind of we will look at the habits. We'll help to try to change certain habits that have that quality of ignorance, and then try to encourage more, allow the good qualities in their tradition to shine. Maybe I think the whole trick is to make friends with these other people as much as you can. Some people are not ready for it, just not ready for it. Some people aren't ready for dialogue, just like some people not ready for, okay, we got some problems in our relationship, and the two parties are not willing to go to get some counseling, to be heard and hear things from another perspective. So, go and do something. Hear from someone who can have an objective point of view. Right?
We should look for the good in people and not the bad.
Look for the good in people and learn to be objective. Learn to be objective, not subjective. So, go ahead.
One thing they teach us in the material world at work is like when you want to get something from another person at work, you first say a good thing about them, praise them, elevate them, make them happy. Then you present your, what you want.
Right, flatter people.
That works.
Yeah, make friends with people in general, and then you can bring out the best in them. Good. And Arjun, go ahead. What's on your mind? What's that? What's
so
in the?
I'll say, in my opinion, to me, I'll say that the less we criticize the people outside, the better. At least in the point that if like it's a constructive criticism, at least within our group, I think it'll be fine. But I think if we look for their fault too much, it can become like very prideful, and it's not, at least in my opinion, it can definitely like take you down if you like, because I know we don't really do most of the things they do, but like at the end of the day we have to interact with them because some of them are our families, friends, and
well, be tactful in all you do, and you can kind of point out some things that people do are slightly silly or a little off course. You don't have to criticize the religion. You can maybe say something about certain habits, like say we're very dead against eating animals, and maybe you can bring that on that gently, slowly, So there's a way. It's the art of delivering with care and not to scare.
Like that.
Thank you.
Deliver with care and not to scare.
That's beautiful.
Okay, so now where are we at time-wise?
You got 10 minutes till 6.
10 till 6. Okay, so we're doing good. Any other comments? Anutama Prabhu, you're looking dangerously quiet. So, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yes, Maharaj. I was just looking at this, the last few sentences, and I agree. We can't, judge everybody with a broad stroke of a brush. You'll find mode of goodness in every sort of faith, just like you may think of like the Saint Francis of Assisi monks who are vegetarian and live a mode of goodness lifestyle. And in so-called, dharmic faiths, you can find people who perform animal sacrifices to some goddess, and that's considered the mode of darkness. So you can find goodness in every faith, and you can also find, or every tradition, and darkness as well.
Yes, truly. And Prabhupada uses that term here, mixed. Isn't it? I believe it's somewhere here. Yeah, so that's true. Let us not forget, going a little bit back to also what you're saying, and Arjuna, don't forget, we just went through chapter 16. That's a totally chapter all about black and white, clear, good, what is divine and what is demonic. And everything that's listed there makes absolute sense. We haven't really switched our topics by diving into chapter 17. It's just getting a little more fine-tuned. We went from division 2 to 3. So that means we're getting a little more sophisticated now, right? The 26 qualities of the devotee, the first 3 verses in chapter 16 is pretty clear. Yep, I understand. I understand how that's divine. And then we read text number 4. So, yep, I get it. I get it. That's demonic. Yep. To be harsh, to be conceited, to be proud, blah, blah, blah. It's very clear. Here, it's just a little bit fine tuning now, a little bit more in this chapter. And I guess the one that will follow, chapter 18, it'll become even more clear where we're supposed to go. Just give yourself to Krishna. Right? We just came from a black and white house, so to speak.
I like the fine tuning. My thoughts went back to the fine tuning knobs on old radios during old times.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
the fine tuning on a radio, the radio knobs.
There's a tuning knob and a fine tuning knob.
Right.
And that's where my thoughts went when you use that.
I guess splitting hairs maybe is a little bit like that.
Yeah, these days you don't find that fine tuning anywhere on any.
Well, these days everything is talking about watering down what Joseph was bringing up. Now it's like everything's okay. No, not according to this chapter 17 and also chapter 16. Not everything you do is okay. We live in a world where people say everything's okay, you're okay, I can eat this, I can do that.
There's a tendency in secular countries to equate all religions on the same platform.
Yeah,
which is a very it's another way of putting down the elevated ones.
Yeah, but what we really in advanced cultures, they should study the 3 modes of material nature, and it will make absolute sense to the average person. So, whenever you make a decision, because studying the 3 modes helps you to make better decisions. So, if you're saying to go this way or that way in your life in this course, is your decision based on ignorance? Is it based on passion? Or is it based on goodness? Are you going to university because you can have lots of parties? What's that? Are you going to university because you can pick up a lot of chicks? So what's that all about?
We should question or remove what mode that we're going to do. We might think more clearly as to how we're going to react.
Yeah, exactly. What's your motive? Are you joining the yoga group? I'm talking about from the guy's side. Are you joining the yoga group because there's a lot of women there with tight clothes on, and you can have a chance to look at them and maybe get like make friends, intimate friends with them? Is that your motive in going to yoga? Is that a good one or a bad one, or is it a predatory one? So look at your intent. Look at your intent. What's your objective here?
Question your intent.
Question your intent. Yeah. Is it sattvic? Is it rajasic? Or is it tamasic? And tamas, we mentioned that. Anybody got the name Thomas? Thomas. We have that saying, the doubting Thomas. In the Jesus story. Doubt is okay, but if you doubt too much, then clearly you're swimming in the mode of ignorance. Make up your mind, for God's sake. Let's get on with the show. Okay, so let us. Okay. Well, I did a theater workshop. I said, okay, I asked the kids, can you show me how you would portray a ball of lettuce? So some of the kids did it. Okay, let us go through takeaways. Well, let's do that. I think we should do that. And then swiftly have to move on. I have a meeting that I must attend. Yeah. Okay. So Vaishnavi, would you steer us, please?
Yeah. Sorry. So I have to use that mic.
Okay, there you go.
No, you can keep that. I just
Use the mic.
Yeah. So Abhinetri, are you ready to say something?
Yeah. On Allah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavats. Just know your audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Know your audience. Yeah. You have to, sometimes we talk about that in ISKCON. Okay. Well, we've got the low-hanging fruit. So many wonderful people from India are coming, joining us like anything. Well, we also need to address the local people. How about the Africans? How about the Chinese? What about the Filipinos? What about the Brits? We want them involved too. So you have to, cater to the different audiences, and for that, you might have to adjust your program a little bit.
Anuttama?
Care, not scare.
Care, not scare. Jai, Haribol. I knew somebody would pick up on that one.
Arjuna?
I'll say look for similarities, not differences.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you.
Bianca?
Hare Krishna, hello. I resonated particularly with how we were talking about making decisions, question your intent. I know that was like the last thing we touched on, but that's what I wrote down because I question my decisions a lot. I have a lot of doubt and second guessing and, am I making the right choice or not? So I really resonated with just really focusing on what mode of materialism I'm thinking in at that time.
Nice. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank
Good.
you.
Next.
Naman?
Namanji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So examine your heart's intent.
Examine your heart's intent. Good. That's right.
Yes.
And you might have to take a deep breath before you say something and before you decide something. Sometimes I find sleeping over an issue helps out. You don't have to make a decision right away. You don't have to draw to any conclusion right away. Take a little time. Why do we have to be so abrupt on everything? Yeah.
Thank you,
Go ahead, next.
Just, I can only say that I'm so fortunate to get your association in this way. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. And thank Krishna, who's above you.
Vasaraj Prabhu?
I mean, look at your wisdom, who's above you, behind you. Okay.
Hare,
All right.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavad Grace Prabhupada. Not to be the judgmental fly, just be the honeybee.
Be the honeybee. Don't be a fly. That's right. Yeah.
Thanks.
Gurudas, are you ready?
Joseph?
Oh, you're unmute. Can you do something about being heard?
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Otherwise,
your point about time, place, and circumstance, I think, is important. It reminded me of that verse where in the Bhagavatam about that, where Narada Muni instructed Dhruva Maharaj in the forest to adjust according to time, place, and circumstance. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you so much, Jai.
Joseph?
Yes, thank you for a beautiful class, Maharaj. Really inspiring. I think I'm going to go with this theme of approaching people from depending on time, place, and circumstance with an intent to care and not scare. Regardless of what mode of material nature they're under or being involved in. Whether they're rajasic, tamasic, or even in the mode of goodness. Always approach with the intent to care for them and not to scare them, even if we are a cult.
Yes, yes. I would say that, those people who like to be a little bit obnoxious, or they like to scare, just tell them to go on a japa walk, and we'll call them when it's Halloween time.
Indeed. Yeah, I also, just to add, I tend to find that people that are always trying to scare others tend to be quite scared themselves.
Mm-hmm. That's right. They know insecurity. They understand fear. That's the reference point. Mm-hmm. They have sufficiently connected with love and kindness. Okay. Pavitra apavitrava.
I think I'll go with faith originally comes from the mode of goodness.
Faith comes from the mode of goodness, Jai. And faith comes from hearing. Prabhupada, you said. Hey, Bhakti Praladji.
Sankalpa next.
Prahlad, I'm just pulling in her son just to grab him in. Hey, can you make a remark, Prabhu, about chapter 17? Anything to do with...
I actually, one sec, whoops, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on. We are not muted.
Yeah, okay.
We are unmuted.
I actually just came in late, so I was listening to everyone's
So
remarks.
coming in late, is that mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance?
Honestly.
Well, I was busy with something, so it was intentional lateness.
Okay, intentional lateness. Okay, great, bravo, thank you. Sankalpa, go ahead.
I was also in mode of ignorance. I also came late. But what I wrote is Thomas is a scary mode.
Yes.
Sanjaya.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, Hare Krishna devotees. For me, is to be respectful, kind, and don't be judgmental.
Nakul Murari, plus. Uday.
Oh, for me, it's seeing Krishna in everyone.
Okay, so here, Chaitanya Charan.
When approaching others, be humble and be kind.
And I'm Sish.
Applying modes of material nature works.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Listen to be able to Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo. I hope, just one second. I hope everyone had a chance to say something.
If you wanted us to hear.
Okay. My Vancha Kalpa just now was for you and my meeting that I just had. It was for both groups. Can you hear me now? Okay. So.
A little bit. You're breaking up, Maharaj.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next week. Vrinda, I'm just going to go to another room.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thanks again for all your association.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Have a great week. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Have a good day, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.